early this morning as I was preparing for this segment, telling about what it was like for the first women at Wartburg Seminary. At that very moment, my husband Burton came in from the other room and he said, "Look what I found in the bookcase," as if on cue, actually. And here it was, a book prepared for me at the 10th anniversary of my ordination, September 18th, 1987. I had been at Wartburg for 8 years then, and so I decided to actually read some pieces of some of these letters. The letters are very affirming of me, and I'm not reading them for that purpose, nor am I going to read all of that. But there are some phrases in here that I think are important for you to hear. I would love to read them all, but I'll just say some phrases. When you teach, you touch the future. During my last years at seminary, interviews were being conducted to select a new faculty member for the vacancy that would occur at the retirement of William Strang. The student body was encouraged to participate in the screening of the candidates, and the women were involved in that process, with a number of the men students as well. And they pointed out the very different style that you, as the only woman candidate, had in the question-answer session. Although the men selected for interview came with fine credentials, they tended to lecture and talk at the students who interviewed them. You, on the other hand, openly engaged in an even-mannered dialogue, inviting others' opinions and views as equally as you gave your own. When you were selected as our new professor, you made a refreshing impact on the atmosphere and spirit of the faculty-student relationship in theological education. I remember the conversations prior to your arrival on campus. What will a woman professor be like was perhaps the center of our questions. And even though I had only 1 year of seminary, it seemed we'd gotten used to the all-male world of the faculty. And then that first day in educational ministry was kind of a toss-up whether you would be more nervous or we would. But soon we discovered your gift of teaching and we all relaxed. Teacher, model, friend, mentor, psychic comforter, intervener in the hour of despair. Names are important. They identify, they clarify, they define. You helped me claim my names. Strong woman is my favorite. It reminds me of you and of God. You taught me that a strong woman is often full of doubts and fears. You taught me that she is often alone in a world which cannot understand her. You showed me how vulnerable she is despite her name. You showed me that woman is important as strong, and that any woman can claim innumerable sisters from all women. I'm writing this on our church's letterhead because if you hadn't been at Wartburg during the years I was there when I needed you, my name wouldn't be on the letterhead. Thank you. March 1987. Do you remember that day? We were together in a worship celebrating the ordination of our sister. She had waited a long time for her call. There had been many interviews, many hopes, many disappointments. Each time an interview came, she shared her hopes and her dreams, and each time it did not work out, she tried to accept the rationale, but it never made any sense. Her ordination was special, for it was one of those rare opportunities when we as many ordained women were present, as many of us as ordained men. 9 of us in all were there, women of Wartburg. Then suddenly I realized that we were there together on that day because you had been at Wartburg leading us and leading the way for us, praying for us, caring for us, and loving us. We were never alone, and you were there, and your support was present. When I first came to Wartburg, I came from Princeton Theological Seminary to take my Lutheran year. At Princeton, it was a place where women looked at each other suspiciously, where competition often edged out friendship, where the atmosphere among women breathed hostility. We clung together, those few women friends, I found, clung in pain, not in understanding why it had to be so lonely and painful. Soon I learned it didn't have to be that way. Here at Wartburg, women are allies to one another. They start out trusting their sisters. They reached out to me, not threatened by me, but eager to welcome the gifts I would share with them. What a difference it was. As I sit here trying to figure out what to say, I can't help but remember last February, this was 1987, theological conference. Do you remember? Oh, I remember very, very well. It was the one out in Nebraska. We were preparing for the new Lutheran Church, and Bill Lazarus from the LCA had been invited to be the speaker, and I had been invited to be the speaker from the ALC. It didn't seem like an even match because Bill was a well-known theologian in the church. And it was, well, in fact, he didn't know who I was. Everybody knew who he was. And he said of me, well, is she Lutheran? If she does, it's okay. If she isn't, it doesn't matter. We gave our lectures, and I was so determined not to make it a competition. Not because I was afraid I would lose, but because I was so clear that that's not how it ought to be. So often I had been the only woman with another male theologian or two theologians speaking on behalf of the church. We were together 3 days, and often the questions would be to the man, because that's what you did, and I would answer them as well, because I cared about those, particularly women, but also the men in the assembly, that they see women and men both responding to their questions. On the third day, the TV cameras were there and so on, and I can tell you, it was a partnership. Not only had we gotten to the place where he could see me as a woman, an equal, but also where we could be sharing conversation with each other. All the way home, driving back from Nebraska, I was really tired. I had really worked hard. But the work of working towards partnership, to be seen and see each other in collaboration, well, it is hard work. Someone had told me that the mark of a good teacher has something to do with whether or not one continues to learn from that teacher long after the class is completed. Such a mark continues to be yours in my life, sweet woman. I have learned and continue to learn from you. It seems to me that so much learning has taken place since we've been apart. The memory of your invitation to learn in whatever ways we could, your patient beginning again each time a new group of women and men crossed your doorstep, insisting there was no such thing as sexism, nor any need for consciousness raising, your outspokenness in addressing that sexism is still present and always will be. Your insistent yet unintrusive blending of woman and intelligence and authority and loving people, your deep-seated faith singing forth in worship, the time together in your living room, on the grass outside Afton Lounge, at the Mother House in Milwaukee or Rochester, or the sharing as we women did of singing, "Sometimes I wish my eyes hadn't been open, but now that they are, we're determined to see." I was glad whenever I saw you wearing vestments or leading worship, how important that was for me. And your invitation for me to read feminist theologians and justice theology. These things continue to be with me in my work now. I spent the last few years rereading Black American writers, Alice Walker's In Search of Our Mother's Gardens, Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and on and on. I'm currently employed as a family and children's counselor and continue to provide counseling for women. You have been very helpful. Not long ago, I took off a cross necklace that I was wearing. I couldn't wear it that day because of the day's rejection. The word was that I would not be interviewed. I can't remember which rejection it was. There have been so many to count. I've run out of fingers and most of my toes. But I realize now, I remember the file you showed me in your office, the fight to be ordained, and I realize it was not me, but the system, the oppression, the sexism. Thank you. It is not easy to handle a 60-year-old pastor who thinks I'm cute and would be fun to have around. but it's even harder when young men pastors are threatened by my maturity and life experience. We need to see women and men side by side and learn how we can be partners together. And finally, there's a chapter in Madeleine L'Engle's book, The Irrational Season, entitled, "Sometimes I Forget to Tell You I Love You." I want to take this opportunity to say, sometimes I forget to tell you I love you. You've been a gift in my life. I can't think of Wartburg Seminary now without a woman professor there. Until I met you, I had not met a Lutheran woman pastor. It's important to have role models. You are a woman of the cloth working within the church to bring a fuller partnership between women and men, between lay and clergy. Your work graciously and patiently raises the questions year after year, and you do this with a spirit of gentleness and tenacity. These are love letters in a way, and it's important to hear the words of women themselves. As I read this book now, almost 25 years later, I realized a number of these women I saw just the last couple of days at our Synod Assembly, and so many of these women are still part of my life. What a gracious gift. And I must add that equal numbers of women who continue to be part of my life are men. Through the years, I've had equal numbers of women and men as student assistants, and each has been a joy. And the way in which it's been such a blessing to keep in touch with men who are now serving in the church as leaders, bishops, pastors, associates in ministry. What a great blessing to be part of the lives and to continue, by God's grace, to be part of the lives of these women and men I've been privileged to teach.